Hello, it's been a while. I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to show you around my studio. And I know I say this with a little bit of privilege because I live at home, I live with my family and my parents. So 3 years ago, when we moved into this house and we were kind of thinking about this study, I was also studying at the time. I was finishing my master's. So I didn't really have incredibly profound input into what was happening with this room. It was kind of like a leftover thing. So things like these overhead cupboards, this sort of shelf, weren't my choice or decision. It was kind of just there. And I suppose you have to also realize that because this is part of a home, it's also the home office as such. So there's lots of things that aren't necessarily just my own. However, just being able to have a space to myself to, disconnect from my bedroom or the rest of the house is a huge privilege, and I really do recognize that. And so I really wanted to kind of share that with you and make this video to almost be a sort of documented moment in time. And I'll walk you through different aspects and different, areas of the study. It's not very big, but I just want to kind of show you what it's like to be inside a communication studio and my mind, I suppose. So yeah, come along. First things first, the desk. This desk is a blank sort of bespoke cut of wood that I ordered from a website online and then got to kind of pick up. It spans across pretty much the entire width of this room, which is I think about maybe 2.5 or 3 meters. I can't actually remember. And this is kind of really the only configuration that works. There is kind of like a heater just below the window. So having the desk span across the length of the room was the wise choice. I've got my monitor, which was given to me secondhand by a very good friend of mine in the industry. And I've been using it since masters and it has been great. It's a 34-inch wide monitor. It's quite old, so I don't really think it's actually available at the moment. But lots of little things here were also sent by brands that I've collaborated with or worked with or have just been kind enough to send me things, starting with this chair. This is a We Are Slouched chair, and they kindly sent me this as part of a brand partnership. It is so comfortable, and I'm so glad that out of all these things here, this is something that is a investment. It's something that I really, really value as someone who constantly has backaches, doesn't like to sit still, and also just wants something really clean and super minimal and, easy to fit into any space. The next thing I've got is this light bar from BenQ. It's kindly sent me this, and to be honest, it makes such a big difference. Like, you wouldn't actually think it would, have that impact, but it's not like I'm writing on my desk all the time or anything, but even just having some sort of light really helps you focus and creates a really good atmosphere as well. I've then got a webcam on top of here, just bought from Amazon. And then this desk mat, which I don't know if you can see, is from Modernize, which you can see that little logo here, which was also sent to me very kindly. And other bits and bobs are really, here and there. This is a wireless charging mount for your phone, sent to me by the brand Spygen. I don't want to get it wrong, but yeah, I think that's what they're called. And then I've got a few Smiskies, I've got my business cards, this fun little oversized binder, which I bought with this sort of metal tray. I just keep a few pens in here, some lip balm and an SD card. So very handy. I keep a few like loose sort of note papers at the back over here. And then plant from IKEA. And then I've got my charging dock for my Ultra Human Ring. So that's sort of the desk setup. This is obviously the most used part of the study, and it's where I spend most of my time. I'm the type of person, however, to not just stay still at my desk for a long period, which is why I also really dislike just an office environment where you have to just sit there and stare at the computer screen for God knows how long. That's not kind of how I like to work. So I will take my laptop and, you know, go sit on the sofa, go sit on the dining table, go sit upstairs in my bedroom. That won't be all the time, but yeah, there have been some times where the study doesn't really get used as much. But the benefit of having a laptop and having something as bespoke as this sort of piece of wood, and you'll start to see the clutter here as well, is that I can basically mount my laptop underneath. So you can see it's here. I just use some really simple brackets that I got online. And what that helps me do is take out all the wires, have my laptop ready to go, because I don't necessarily need to use it as a second screen. And this just is something that I pretty much do every single morning, is come in here and connect it up, because usually by the end of the day I have moved on to the sofa and I'm working there, for example. So that's kind of like the desk space. And then in this corner we've got lots of different things. We've got our trusty little 3D printer from Bamboo Lab. This is the A1, which, you know, does actually come in handy more than you might think. I've got a series of publications that are either my own or things that I've been featured in. So things like the Drawing Attention book, a copy of the AJ, the Graduate Showcase newspaper that we produced, a couple of zines, a couple of postcards for work as well that I've made. So everything is kind of like piling up in there. It's sort of a, it's sort of like a feature tray shelf. I don't know what you want to call it, but I quite like having it there. And I really like this sort of acrylic shelf too. It's just super, super clean. Lets you kind of see what you're displaying. And then up here we've got sorry for the shaky camera. Up here we've got small bookshelf. I do have a few more books up in the cupboards that are kind of too big to put on this bookshelf, but these are things that I have read maybe in the last, again, like 2 or 3 years. There's a mix of personal development, but also maybe business, I think, is the main theme. And then just a few trinkets up here. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is to also give you an insight into the way that I think and the way that my projects come about. So obviously a lot of the work is digital. However, I do take the time to either sketch in my notebook. So you can see a few examples here, and I've been trying to do this a lot more this year as well, is just kind of like get things and ideas onto the paper rather than trying to keep things always in my head, which has proved to be a problem before. So I will take this with me everywhere I go and try to, you know, make the most of my time, not in a very like obsessive and boring way, but more just so that I can put down ideas onto a piece of paper rather than just keeping them in my brain where all the like clutter and anxiety builds up. And then something that I did, I think a few months ago, is put up this pinboard. And I've got to say, it's not been as used as I would have liked. I think mainly because it sits behind me when I'm working, so I'm not directly looking at it. However, right now I've been using it to showcase a project that I'm working on. I'm also producing a piece of branded content around this project. So I kind of just wanted to have a few slides from the brand toolkit up on the pinboard. This is a really simple like acoustic, I think it's like an underfloor heating panel actually, but it's basically just like foam. A foam board would do just as well, that I've then covered in this sort of burlap material to somewhat match the aesthetics of this room. I think you'll see that there's no real cohesiveness in terms of materials or colors, and again, that's because a lot of the major decisions like the cupboards or the flooring or the door have not been my own. As they grow and develop, I'm hoping that I can take a few things and put them on this pinboard, because I think it's really important just to have like a visual link to inspiration or to things that, you know, can inspire you in the smallest of ways. I mean, that's why you've got things like the Dieter Rams book on the shelf, or you've got, I don't know, like newspaper or Lego or whatever it is around this space. It hasn't been heavily curated, but I think enough so that it still feels, I don't know, a bit, it just feels a bit lived in, I guess. It was kind of like it, to be honest. Really short, really simple, but I wanted to kind of just give you a glimpse into my workspace. If you are interested in that sort of thing, please do check out the brands that I've mentioned, and I will hopefully see you on the next one. Thanks for joining me. Bye.